Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new episode of Second Take Cinema, coming at you from the glorious Impala Films headquarters in sunny Southend-on-Sea. As always, I'm your host, Jamie Evans, joined, as always, by Mr. Rory Jocelyn.
Hello everybody.
And today, we travel back to the turn of the millennium, 1999, as we give a second take to Galaxy Quest. Galaxy Quest is a 1999 American science fiction comedy film directed by Dean Parasot, written by David Howard and Robert Gordon, starring Tim Allen, Sigourney Weaver, the late great Alan Rickman, Tony Shalhoub, Sam Rockwell, and Daryl Mitchell. It was made for a budget of $45 million and grossed $90.7 million at the box office. It eventually achieved cult status, particularly from Star Trek fans for its affectionate parody, but also from more mainstream audiences as a comedy film in its own right. On review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes, 90% of reviews are positive, with an average rating of 7.3 out of 10. The website's consensus reads, intelligent and humorous satire with an excellent cast. No previous Trekkie knowledge needed to enjoy this one. Critics praised it both as a parody of Star Trek and as a comedy film of its own. The New York Times' Lawrence Van Gelder called it an amiable comedy that simultaneously manages to spoof these popular, futuristic space adventures and replicate the very elements that have made them so durable. Roger Ebert, writing for the Chicago Sun-Times, praised the ability of the film to spoof the illogic of the TV show. Amy Taubin of The Village Voice offered a lukewarm review, noting that the many 8 to 11-year-olds in the audience seemed completely enthralled. Joe Layden of Variety said that Galaxy Quest remains light and bright as it races along and never turns nasty or mean-spirited as it satirises the cliches and cults of Star Trek. Retrospective reviews for Galaxy Quest have been positive, as the film is considered to have held up over time. Esquire's Matt Miller said in 2019, the film absolutely holds up as one of the best sci-fi satires ever made, one that challenges our obsession with massive Hollywood franchises, the nature of fandom, and some of the more problematic cliches of the genre. But it does so with a self-aware empathy that makes it an enduring and lasting entry in not only science fiction, but American film as a whole. Writer-director David Mamet, in his book Bambi vs. Godzilla on the nature, purpose and practice of the movie business, included Galaxy Quest in a list of 4 perfect films, along with The Godfather, A Place in the Sun, and Dodsworth.
Oh, I haven't seen those last 2.
A Place in the Sun is also the name of a reality show, isn't it?
I don't think he was talking about the reality show.
No, I don't think he was either.
It's a perfect movie.
I also know that in 2013, I think this was, Star Trek fans voted this as the 7th best Star Trek movie.
Yep, it's got a lot of love from Star Trek fans.
Yes, and we're going to talk about that film in just a moment. But first, it's time to quiz Rory. Okay, Rory, it's time to quiz you. We have got 10 questions, all about Galaxy Quest and or people who made Galaxy Quest. Tangentially. They're all tangentially related to Galaxy Quest, okay?
Yep.
What did you want from me?
Maybe a chocolate bar.
Question number 1. Which well-known comedy director was originally set to direct this movie, but quit over Tim Allen's casting?
Oh, was it Chris Columbus?
It was not. It was Harold Ramis.
Oh, that was it. Yeah.
I'm guessing he doesn't like Tim Allen?
Maybe.
Or just didn't think he was right for the role?
I'll be honest, I don't know much about that.
Do you know who it was who he wanted to have the role? It's couldn't go more different from Tim Allen.
Harrison Ford?
Alec Baldwin.
Oh, blimey, no, that wouldn't have worked at all. That was a terrible cast. Yeah, I'm glad Harold Ramis didn't do it. I love Harold Ramis, but, definitely not the film for him if that was his idea.
No. Question 2. Which future The Office star has a small role as a Thermian?
Rian.
What? Rian?
Yeah, Rian.
Rihanna?
No, Rian, the guy who plays Dwight.
Yeah, but his name's not Rian.
Is it not?
No.
Ryan?
No.
Rian?
Oh my god, you're just saying Rian again.
Rian.
Rainn Wilson.
Oh, same difference.
Rainn Wilson.
Purple Rain. Purple Rian.
Okay. I believe this is the last question that's about people who almost were in it.
Well, Rian was in it. Rain was in it. Jesus Christ.
Which famous comedian? Is that how that's pronounced? Comedian?
How you take the piss out of me for not knowing how to say rain, but you can't say comedian.
Which famous comedian was second choice for Missy Pyle's role? So she's the female Thermian who does the weird clicky, screamy thing.
The only person I can think of is the woman who was the little girl in Wreck-It Ralph.
Sarah Silverman?
Yeah.
Nope.
Wow, balls.
Jennifer Coolidge.
I don't even know who that is.
Stifler's mom in American Pie.
Oh!
Monica and Rachel's annoying friend in Friends.
Yeah.
I went to Yonkers.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't have thought of her, but actually, she probably would have done okay
Very
with the
funny.
role.
Very funny,
Yeah.
Jennifer Coolidge.
Yeah.
Okay, question 4. Good year for Sam Rockwell, 1999. The same year that Galaxy Quest came out, Sam Rockwell also featured in which prison drama based on a Stephen King book?
Green Mile.
The Green Mile is correct. Well done. You're on the board, as they say.
Hang on, I got Rian right.
No, you said Rian.
I was still. You know who I
and
meant.
you only gave me a first name. You didn't even get close to Wilson.
Because I was going to say Johnson, but...
Rian Johnson, that's a director. That's the guy who made Knives Out and The Last Jedi.
It's a real person.
Anyway.
Oh. I haven't even seen any of Rian Johnson's work.
You seen Knives Out?
Oh, yeah.
We watched it. It was good. Right then, next question. Question 5. 2 years later, Alan Rickman would gain worldwide fame as which role in the Harry Potter film series?
Snape.
Snape is correct. Severus
But
Snape.
he already had fame from Die Hard, an infinitely better series.
Yeah, but not on the same level.
Yes.
I agree Die Hard's probably better. No, Rory, come on.
No.
Come
Sorry.
on, we're
I
talking
will
about...
not have Harry Potter compared to Die Hard favourably.
We are talking
Die
about...
Hard is an infinitely superior
Oh,
series.
Die Hard is better.
And half
hang
of
on.
it's garbage.
Die Hard's better, but... We are talking about literally one of the most successful franchises in human history.
And we're talking about one of the greatest villains in action movie history.
Doesn't matter. More people knew him for Harry Potter.
Right,
I knew
more
him for
little
Harry Potter
children know him
first.
No, sorry.
I knew him for Harry Potter first.
Children knew him for Harry Potter first. And you were a child at this point.
Yeah.
I was an adult by this point. So
So?
I knew him for Die Hard.
Doesn't matter. He's more famous as Snape.
No, he's not.
I'll take the point off you.
Fuck's sake, it's not fair. You already were
I am the
unfair with
quiz
the
master.
Rian question.
Question 6. Very easy one for you.
What's Tim Allen's name?
Which famous Disney animated character is voiced by Tim Allen?
Oh, Buzz Lightyear.
Buzz Lightyear is correct. To infinity and beyond. Ooh. 2 years prior to Galaxy Quest,
Yes.
Sigourney Weaver reprised arguably her most famous role for which movie?
Alien Resurrection.
Alien Resurrection is correct. Director Dean Parasot helmed which third chapter in a comedy trilogy in 2020? So he directed the third film in a comedy trilogy in 2020.
I don't know any comedies now. It's not fair. 2020. All right, fine. Bill and Ted.
Bill and Ted Face the Music
Really?
is correct.
Why did he direct it? He didn't do the first two.
I don't know. 1999 was the release of which legendary director's final film?
Oh, blimey, was that Kubrick?
Stanley Kubrick is correct. Eyes wide shut.
Yep.
Question 10, real easy one. Patrick Stewart
He's not in this film.
originally did not want to see this film. He was actually quite bitter about it being made.
Yeah, because he thought it was taking the piss.
Which fellow Star Trek actor convinced Patrick to go and see the movie?
Brent Spiner.
False. You're wrong. It's Jonathan Frakes.
Oh, of course it was.
Oh.
To be fair, that's a tight one because it could be either of those two because all of them get on, but like Brent Spiner likes to. I suppose it probably made more sense for it to be Frakes because Brent Spiner often trolls Patrick Stewart.
Right.
He phones Patrick Stewart's wife doing a Patrick Stewart impression.
Right.
Things like that. But the thing is that Patrick Stewart's wife always knows it's Brent Spiner.
Well, Rory, that gives you 60%. You were close.
I still think I got 70%.
You didn't get Rainn Wilson.
Rian. I got Rian Wilson Johnson. Rain.
Are you going to suddenly claim that you actually have like a Scottish accent? And that's just Rain.
No. What
Irish?
it is? No. I'm dyslexic.
That doesn't affect your talking.
Yes, it does. I thought it was Rian.
Anyway, thank you for playing, and we'll be right back after these commercials. So, Galaxy Quest. As we said, 1999 film, parody of Star Trek sort of thing. Rory, you put this one on the list.
Yep.
Care to tell the audience about the first time you ever saw Galaxy Quest?
So, I actually can't remember the exact first time I saw Galaxy Quest. It's one of those ones that I don't believe I saw it in cinemas, but I definitely saw it on VHS.
Mm-hmm.
So I probably saw it in either 99 or 2000. I don't recall going to the cinema to see it, so I'm guessing the VHS was the first time I watched it. Possibly even a rental from Blockbuster, because, we're going back in time. But yeah, basically, I watched the film. Me and my parents always loved Star Trek. I grew up with Star Trek. It's, one of my favourite series of all time, a bit like one of yours is Doctor Who. And it was fantastic to see a comedy play of Star Trek with a really good cast that was also respectful to the source in that sense. Obviously, it's not an official Star Trek product. It doesn't use any of the Star Trek names. But you can tell when they're at the convention, it's very clearly the story of William Shatner basically finding out that the rest of the cast hated him. There's, the character of Alan Rickman's character, is very much an allegory of Spock, who had, run-ins with Shatner
and a dash of Picard.
And a dash of Picard, where he thought he was too good for it.
With I played King Richard,
Yeah. So they kind of blended those two elements for the Alan Rickman character. And you can see that in several of the characters. They're kind of pastiches of things that Star Trek had gotten right and wrong.
Sigourney Weaver's a little bit Lieutenant Uhura, isn't she?
I would
with the whole. I'm just repeating what the computers say.
I would no. You know what? I think she was a lot more Deanna Troi. She didn't have the psychic powers, or the whole where she had no actual fucking useful purpose on the ship is much more Deanna Troi. Uhura was at least the communications officer, and there was times she took the helm.
Yeah.
That doesn't really happen with Deanna Troi except for in the movies.
I just saw one where she takes the helm.
No.
I did. I also saw one where she's the main villain.
Yes.
She gets possessed.
Yeah, but that's the possession. That happens a couple of times.
Yeah.
It's a cheap cop-out answer. But anyway, the point is she's essentially the useless but sexy woman character. Again, as we mentioned during the quiz, a brilliant piece of casting considering that Sigourney Weaver broke that mould with Ripley 2 decades earlier. So you've got all of this. And also the play on the red shirts with Sam Rockwell. So for me, it was a film that we watched. We loved all the elements of it. It was both honouring Star Trek and taking the piss. And unlike modern Star Trek comedies such as the Lower Decks TV series, it still felt like a Star Trek. Ironically, despite not being one. The Orville is also a very good interpretation of Star Trek in a slightly more comedic bent. What they get right, that something like Lower Decks gets incredibly wrong. At least for me, other people may have a different opinion. is that they have a laugh about, and they play with the genre, but they still try and tell an emotional or meaningful story within that. Whereas something like Lower Decks, it's literally brainless. It's got it makes no attempt to tell an emotional story. It makes no attempt to tell an intelligent story. It makes no attempt to challenge your perceptions of reality. And it makes no attempt to... It's essentially going for lowest common denominator, and in order to compensate for that, what they put in instead is lots of tiny blink and you'll miss it cameo references and Easter eggs in the background of every shot. Now that's great. I mean, on our sister show VGMP, when we watched a show called Sega Hard Girls, where I'm a big Sega fan, I absolutely loved that. To that same level, I can appreciate elements of Lower Decks, but overall, I don't find it very funny, and it doesn't tell the emotional story, so it fails on every level that I watch Star Trek for. Yes, whereas this hit it all perfectly. And the other reason I did it, and I seem to be not very good at this with you, Jamie, is you and I tend to gel very well on dramatic films, I feel. Even if we don't necessarily 100% agree or 100% like the same stuff, we tend to appreciate the dramatic works that we bring to the table. Comedy, probably just by design of the genre as much as anything else, but it seems to be the thing that just... You and I have a laugh together a lot, even with the microphones off, everything else. And yet, when we come to comedy films, other than Dodgeball, we don't gel. No. You kind of liked Wild Hogs, but not to the same extent as me. It was just it was funny enough. Dodgeball we both love, and that also, unlike Wild Hogs, Dodgeball matches the public opinion that it's a very popular film. This film very much follows the other films I've tried to bring on board, Airplane, and we'll get round to it eventually, Blazing Saddles, where I've tried to show you a film that is culturally lauded as an amazing comedy. Blazing Saddles is a musical, and you like musicals, so it had that going for it as well. And then with this, it's like Dodgeball, because we watched Dodgeball before we recorded this as well. We were talking about how it's one of those films that has... It shouldn't work. It should be a garbage movie, but it was like lightning in a bottle. You got all the right cast in all the right parts, doing exactly the right performances. And the script was strong enough without getting in the way of that to let everyone's performance shine and create a literal masterstroke piece of work. Galaxy Quest is exactly the same. And yet somehow, and I know I'm going to let you explain why, but again, I've gone up to the plate, if we're using baseball terms, and struck out. Yeah. This is like strike 3 on films.
That means you're out of here.
Yeah, it's
you're
like
being replaced.
Find 3 comedies that Jamie will love. Oh, well, these 3 are absolute gold mines. They're heavy hitters. Everyone loves them. No one can dislike Airplane, Blazing Saddles, and Galaxy Quest. Oh, hello, Jamie. Yeah. So on to your opinion, having never seen it before.
So I've always heard about this film. I always hear about it in the same sentence as Spaceballs, which I also have not seen.
I don't think you'd like Spaceballs.
It doesn't sound like I would. And it definitely doesn't sound like I would have liked the Harold Ramis version of this, because apparently his version was much closer to Spaceballs.
Right. I will say, with Spaceballs, we'll probably eventually get round to Spaceballs because it's such a big name. But the only bit... watching it again now, someone who liked it when I was younger, I still like it now. But unlike Blazing Saddles, which is great the whole way through, Spaceballs is only funny, really, in the scenes that are taking place with Darth Helmet and with Rick Moranis. All of those bits are literal gold. Yeah. Everything else sucks. Like, the whole rest of it, all the hero cast that we're following their journey on, don't care. And, they're humorous, don't get me wrong, but they're not funny. The Rick Moranis bits, all the bits with the Empire, are fucking hilarious. And there's meta jokes in there, and there's bits where they play with filmmaking as a medium. They don't do any of that with the hero bits, because it's essentially... honestly, it feels like the main storyline is filler.
Right.
So that's why I didn't show you Galaxy Quest. That's why I didn't show you Spaceballs. Because Spaceballs, as much as I like elements of it, is a very flawed film.
Right.
Galaxy Quest, as you've read from the reviews and
movie.
from mine, it's the script is perfect, the cast is perfect.
Yeah.
There's no way it can't hit. So,
Except it didn't.
Except it didn't hit with you.
I didn't like it.
Yeah.
And I wish I could explain why. I know this doesn't make for a good episode. So throughout the episode, I'm going to take stabs at unpicking why I don't like it.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by that as well, because obviously, as you see, almost nobody does that, so it'd be interesting to pick at the film.
I don't know if I could come up with a definitive answer, though, because I don't know. I can recognise that the script is good. I can recognise that the performances are good. It's shot well. The makeup effects are good. The prosthetics on Saris.
Yep.
I can recognise that I should like it, and I just didn't. I liked a couple of bits, but that was it. I don't know why. That's what's so weird, is I just don't know why.
So all the elements were right, but somehow still didn't hit the mark for you.
I think part of it is I feel the film's really grey.
Yes, you talk about visually.
Even when they're on Earth.
Oh, yeah.
Lots of concrete convention halls.
Yeah, even the outside when they're doing that tech store, it's very much like a concrete bridge and grey tables.
I think that's part of it, maybe, is the film just isn't visually interesting to me.
I will say, I've never thought of it, but now you mention it, there is in terms of visual design, I think the costumes are okay, but the issue is certainly the Thermians' costumes are that shiny, black, silvery sort of spandex stuff. That would be fine, except the ship is also all metal and black. So they kind of blend into the background in that sense. You either have to have... honestly, I would have preferred either more colourful backgrounds, or you could have still had it the same way as it was built, but then light it with some colours.
Yeah.
Just to give it... Because, I will completely concede your point that there is far too much silver grey in this film in terms of its set design. I think the idea of that... this is me speaking for the filmmakers without having got any confirmation whatsoever, I can only assume that the reason for that design was A, it looked slick for the time, and B, it was basically don't make the backgrounds too interesting, so because we want to make sure that all the performances pop, except for having an interesting background wouldn't stop the performances working.
Yeah.
I
wonder if they based it on the motion picture film Enterprise, because I don't know if you know this, you probably already do because you know this film and you like this film. The original full title of this film was Galaxy Quest: The Motion Picture,
right,
as a reference to Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Maybe that's why they're also in the jumpsuits.
Yeah,
because they don't really use jumpsuits in original series Trek because they have the jumper and trousers.
Yeah.
And then from the second movie onwards, they've got the more sort of naval style uniforms.
Yeah.
The only ones where they're really wearing jumpsuits the whole way through is the motion picture.
Right.
And apart from Jason Nesmith, they're all wearing jumpsuits in this. So, yeah, perhaps... I never thought of it that way, but you're probably right.
Yeah.
And also there are other elements as well, like the Omega-13, the look of that is kind of... Not fully, but it looks like it could be slightly inspired by the inside of Vija.
Vija, yeah.
And I know that the rock monster idea came from Star Trek V.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there is no rock monsters in Star Trek V. But there was meant to be. There's on the Blu-ray they've got the test of the rock monster costume. Because of the budget and the complications of the outfits, they only built, I think, 1 or 2. There's only one working. It looks really good. The problem is Kirk was meant to beat up 2 rock monsters, but the costumes were so intricate, they were really slow. They couldn't move in them.
Yeah. So
it's like slow walks. How do you fight? How do you make a dynamic fight where one of the creatures barely is able to move?
Yeah.
So they ended up nixing it completely. So
Fair play.
now God just tries to laser zap him with his eyes. Star Trek 5 is a good one.
Mm.
Famously known for being the good one.
Yeah. So, I think where I'd like to start...
Yes.
I don't quite know where to start, actually. Let's start with... let's start with the cast.
Yes.
Because, for me, the MVP of the movie is Sam Rockwell.
Yes.
Who is not as well known back then as he is now.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, actually, because prior to this film, he
It
hadn't
was
done
bit
things
parts.
like Moon yet. He was
very much a supporting actor before this.
Yeah, he'd been a villain in one of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle films.
Right.
I think number 2. Might have been number 1. No, number 2, because I didn't see him in 1. Maybe it was on. Yeah, he'd been in one of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle films. Obviously, at the same sort of time as this, he got Green Mile. But honestly, he probably was in stuff, but I can't recall anything else he was in prior to this. So he probably was as much of a lesser known name when they cast him, but nowadays he's like one of the bigger names in it.
Yeah, I mean, he's like an Oscar-nominated performer.
Yeah, but this is before
might even
all
have
of
won
that.
a couple of Oscars, actually. I'm not sure if he's ever won.
But yeah, this before all that was before he was in the Marvel movies.
Yeah.
Before he did Moon, which is the one that I think propelled him into the sort of big time.
Yeah, 3 Billboards.
Yep.
Anyway, I thought he was the funniest character. He's the only one who ever got me to really laugh, which is 2 bits. One is when they first travel to the Protector as a group.
Yeah.
And the tentacle monsters come in, and then they turn human, and then as like a delayed reaction, he suddenly starts screaming.
Yeah.
And then when they go down to the planet that has the little goblin baby things on
Yeah,
it.
because they need to get another beryllium sphere
Yes.
to recharge the engine.
He has a big freak out
Yeah.
about how he's clearly going to die.
I've changed my mind, I want to go back.
Yeah, because he was on the show. So basically, for those who don't know, the characters in Galaxy Quest were the main cast of a fictional show called Galaxy Quest that was basically Star Trek.
Yep.
And he had one guest appearance on it as a character, crewman number 6,
Yeah, something
who
like that.
got killed before the first commercial break.
In episode 81!
So he's convinced he's going to die here.
Yeah.
And I quite like, the line I like is when he's like, I don't even have a name, or something like that.
Oh, yeah, he goes...
And they're like, you got a last name,
Yeah,
guy? He
he's like,
goes,
you're not
do
gonna...
I?
Yeah, you're not gonna die, guy. Am I not? Then what's my last name? It's I don't know. Nobody knows. You know why? Because my character's not important enough for a last name. Because I'm gonna die 45 seconds after we land on the planet. You've got a last name, guy. Do I? Do I? Fucking love that scene. And it's perfectly counterbalanced by Alan Rickman then just going, are we there yet?
Yeah. Yeah, he's very
Dry.
all the way through this. Very not happy to be there. Thinks he deserves better, etc.
Yeah. Where are you off
Refuses
to? To see if there's a pub.
Yeah, that's the other good line. Refuses to say his character's catchphrase by Grapthar's hammer.
Such a good line.
And then obviously at the end ends up saying it legitimately and meaning it.
Yep.
A big problem for me is the Thermians.
Yeah?
So the Thermians are the aliens that come to Earth to pick up the crew because they've seen the show Galaxy Quest and didn't understand that it was a TV show.
Yeah, they don't
They think they're
understand
historical
fiction,
documents.
do they?
No. And these guys are led by Enrico Colantoni, who I really like as Keith Mars in Veronica Mars.
Yeah.
I hated this. I hate it so much, Rory. I can't explain how much I hate the Thermians.
Some of the crew have requested to be here at this historic event.
The way they walk, the way they talk,
But
the way
it
they've
makes
got the goofy
sense.
smiles all the time.
It makes sense.
I'm not saying it don't make sense. I'm saying I don't like it.
You're the first person I've heard
To be
who
fair, the
hated
voice
the
doesn't make
Termies.
sense. I don't understand where the voice came from. If they've learnt to talk from film, which I would be in my
He wouldn't
opinion,
have spoken that way. Yeah, I see
a
your
better
point.
joke would have been if you got some actors. Like Enrico might be able to do it. I don't know if he can. You should have had him imitating
Nesmith.
someone famous, like another famous TV person, like fucking John Wayne or something,
I think the only problem with that is if you did that, so he was imitating John Wayne or Clint Eastwood
or
something.
Elvis or
Yeah.
something like that.
If he was doing that, as the people have been asked to be here at this historic event, that would have worked for some of it. But certainly the emotional payoff scene when he's being tortured and then Sarah makes him explain that essentially this race has their last hope they pinned on a fiction, and he has to make him understand because he says, we're actors, we pretended. Doesn't understand it. So tell him as you would a child. That childishness comes through because his voice is that sort of naive, childish, soft. Whereas if it was like Clint Eastwood's voice,
yeah,
then it's just like,
Eastwood was a bad
but
choice.
inside I've seen many walls. You're like, nah.
You could have done something like, and this is me being a cunt, because I don't want to say the word cunt. This is me being a git, because who do I think I am to rewrite Galaxy Quest? Sack Enrico Colantoni, cast Dan Castellaneta, and have him speak like Homer Simpson, including saying "dough" to things.
Yeah. I'm not sure I would have liked that.
No.
Personally, I understand where you're coming from. You don't like the ridiculousness of the
It was
performance.
just too silly,
But
for me.
yeah.
Do you know what it reminded me of?
I think I'm going to disagree with you on that one because I quite like the silliness of it.
Have you ever seen a show, and there's no reason you would have seen it because you're even older than I am, and I was too old for this show, but I've seen clips of it through like cultural osmosis.
Right.
Have you ever seen a children's TV show that I believe is called Lazy Town? It's got a girl with bright pink hair in it.
Oh, it's got a Waluigi-looking motherfucker.
Yes.
I've seen people post images of that online. I don't know what it looks. It looks like some sort of fucking heroin-infused
Yeah.
fever dream. And I'm like, and people are like, this is for kids. And I'm like, I don't even know if that's real. Is it?
Yeah, it's a real show.
No, but
Lazy
is it
Town.
for kids?
Yeah, yeah.
Because that doesn't look like it's.
No,
that
it's for children.
That
yeah.
looks like something.
Nightmarish.
Well, that looks like something you're looking at when you're off your nut.
I think that's why it got popular with older people as well.
Right. Okay. So it had that Teletubby. Because I remember when I was younger, the Teletubbies got huge. I wasn't into it because I was way too fucking old for it. But I remember a lot of people older than me at the time were into Teletubbies.
Yeah.
Because they were getting high
Yeah.
and then watching it stoned.
I know loads of grown-ups who are super into something called Bluey, and I can only...
That's something that my nephew, who's only 2 years old, watches.
Yeah, I can only assume that they're getting stoned and watching it.
Yeah.
But the reason I bring up Lazy Town is in that's a very over-the-top acting style.
Yeah.
And it just reminded me of that.
So you think it went too far?
For me personally, I just want to say this now before you all start commenting in the comments. Jamie's an idiot. Yes, Jamie is an idiot. I know I'm in the minority here. I know every other fucker on the planet likes this movie. I don't know why I didn't like it. It just wasn't funny.
Can you... Okay.
Part of that, I watched the film again to try and be a sensible person, because part of it is I just can't stand when you enjoy things.
Me?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. It's just like a really horrible, ugly part of me. And when you enjoy something, it makes me want to hate it.
Why do you do this show with me then?
Because I hate you. That was an Always Sunny reference. Because we disagree.
No, fair enough.
I wouldn't be doing it if you were sat here going, yep, Jamie, you're right, Army of Darkness is great, and Serendipity's great, and Mean Girls is great, and Blazing Saddles is terrible,
fair-
don't like it.
Wait.
That's an accurate impression, by the way.
Yeah, but I liked Mean Girls.
No, that's we
So
agree
we
sometimes.
actually did agree with Mean
We
Girls.
agree sometimes. But what I mean is we're not... And like Dodgeball. Dodgeball is basically just us
Dodgeball.
supporting each other.
Yeah.
But we have disagreements. We did Ghost in the Shell, and we both had different opinions on Ghost in the Shell and what would improve it.
Yeah.
Things like that.
But it's different. It's one thing to have a different opinion from someone. It's another thing to be actively... loathe when they enjoy something.
Do you know what, though? I thought I was a weirdo for doing that, but I've recently learned that actually quite a lot of people do it. It's the thing where... I honestly, I thought I was the only one who did this, but I saw a meme about it the other day and realised that, other people do this too. Nothing guarantees that I won't watch something more than if someone recommends it to me.
Right.
How weird is
this
that?
What I'm doing wrong? I'm trying to find stuff you'll
No,
like,
but
and I'm like, I recommend this, Jake.
Yeah.
You'll like it. And immediately, by me doing that, you're like, fuck that.
But
thing.
how weird is that? Because surely, if you're friends with someone and you trust their opinion, surely them recommending something to you, you should be like, oh, yes, I will watch this.
Interesting.
But for some reason, it's just a weird, petty thing. Star Trek's a good example, right?
Yeah.
I'm watching TNG at the minute,
Yeah.
and I'm enjoying it. If you'd forced me to watch it, or you'd sat there and be like, come on, Jamie, let's watch TNG together,
You'd hate it.
I would hate it.
Right.
I would hate it so much. So I rewatched Galaxy Quest without you, so that I could see for myself if that was the problem.
To see if you were wrong at this historic event.
And I wasn't wrong. I hate it. I hate it so much. The more we're talking about it, the more I hate it.
Something wrong with you, man. There's something wrong with you.
There's only one other problem I can think of.
And not because you got a different opinion. It's the hate thing.
There's only one other problem I can think of with it.
Go on.
And you're not going to like it. I think Tim Allen's my problem. Now, you know I'm not one of those on the bandwagon hate Tim Allen just because he's a conservative guy.
You didn't mind
I like
Wild
Home
Hogs.
Improvement. I like Wild Hogs. I like the Santa Claus.
Really? I thought he was perfectly cast in this.
I don't think he is.
Who would you have put in there? Don't say Alec Baldwin.
No. Now, I'll give Tim Allen this.
Because he pulls off the William Shatnerish sort of...
He doesn't, for me. I'll give him this. He's very clearly studied Shatner's physicality.
Yeah.
And imitates that very well. I'll give him that. He's doing the lean forward in the chair when he's like giving order. It all looks very Shatnerian. Just, I don't know what it is that I'm missing. It's just, we needed someone with a more Shatnerian quality. Like young Shatner, like when he was handsome and
Well, he wouldn't have been young
cheesy.
because it was meant to be them past their prime already.
Yeah, that's true. You're right. I'm wrong.
Honestly, I am surprised. I'm not surprised that people don't like Tim Allen. I don't really have a problem with him, but I do understand that there are people who do. But honestly, for me, this is one of those roles where I'm like, perfect casting choice. It's like, if I went, Ben Stiller shouldn't have been in Dodgeball, it should have been... And I could name anyone, like even if I went, Steve Carell should have played that role. Yeah. It wouldn't matter who I choose. It should be
Ben Stiller, yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those... It felt like it was almost purpose-made for them, even if it wasn't. Kind of in a weird way as well, though you may disagree, Jim Carrey in Cable Guy. Because he just takes that role and owns it.
Yeah.
And no one else could perform it the way he did. Even though he wasn't originally meant to be the Cable Guy.
Yeah.
There was another actor who dropped out.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, it wasn't meant to be Jim Carrey.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
I think Ben Stiller at one point was going to play it himself, but instead, because he was directing it, he dropped down and just became a cameo, essentially, in his own film. He's the two brothers, one of which murdered the other, allegedly, and it turns essentially is connected to the Cable Guy.
Right. Yeah, I wish I feel bad. I feel like I'm doing a disservice here to the audience.
Because you can't quite articulate it.
It's been a long time since I've seen a film that has stumped me in this way, where I know I didn't enjoy it, but I don't know why. Because I didn't hate it. I didn't watch this film and sit there going, this has been incompetently made, or, this film's offending me, or anything like that. It's not like bloody... I don't know what's some of the worst. It's not Easy Rider, which I hated.
So, Easy Rider is a bad film that has cultural cachet.
Yeah.
Whereas this is a good film still.
I just didn't care.
Interesting.
I didn't care about any of the characters.
Did you not hit the emotional note when?
Nope.
No.
None of the emotions landed for me.
Wow.
I didn't care when that guy got shot and Alan Rickman's like by Thor's hammer. I didn't care that Justin Long finally gets vindication. I didn't care that Enrico Colantoni was... In fact, I kind of wanted him to just kill Enrico Colantoni so he'd show up with that voice. I wish I knew. I honestly, I wish I knew. I don't know why. I usually like meta humor.
Yeah, this is full of it.
I love meta narratives. I love meta jokes. I love the film My Name is Bruce. This is the same plot. My Name is Bruce is this plot, but made 9 years later.
Yeah.
Like, it's the same thing. Kids go and get Bruce Campbell thinking that he's actually like he is in his films, and he thinks it's just a fan convention they're trying to take him to, goes with them to this, a film they're trying to make, goes with them to this town that they're saying's got this Chinese demon haunting it. Turns out the Chinese demon's real.
Right.
And he has to actually become the hero he's been playing all this time. It's the exact same base plot line. I like that better. Don't know why. It's not better. It actually isn't better on a technical level. The only competent actor in it is Bruce Campbell.
Yeah.
And Ted Raimi. But I don't know. I wish I knew, Rory. I'm so sorry.
That's right.
Maybe I've just not seen enough Star Trek. But then again, that guy said you didn't need to have seen Star Trek.
I don't think that's what it is. And look, you're not wrong for having an opinion that's contrary to... Well, I was going to say contrary to reality. How dickheadish was that? No, I mean contrary to the public opinion, as it were, because this one is a very popular film. I'm intrigued by... you know what it is? What frustrates me isn't that you didn't like it. It's a bit annoying because I wanted to go, oh, finally I got one with you, but I didn't.
Should we just... When you finally get one, is that going to be the final episode?
Yeah.
Should we just end the show
I'll quit.
On a high note?
The second that I find a comedy film that you love... that you haven't seen before.
I don't think you're ever going to find one. Based on the comedies I've heard you recommend to me before, I think we might not have
The thing
any.
is, it's not like I'm showing you the same shit.
No, I know.
There is, other than the fact that they're comedies, there's not really a lot of connection between Airplane, Blazing Saddles,
And this.
Galaxy Quest, Marx Brothers. I tried to show you Marx Brothers. You didn't like that either.
That one was definitely me being a dickhead, to be fair, though.
Yeah.
That was can't believe he's making me watch this black and white film, blah, 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 blah.
God, you're such a...
Baby.
Yes. You're such a Gen Z.
Yes, I am younger than I am.
Fucking millennial.
I am half the man you think I am.
Half the man.
But okay, so let's try and get away from the negativity for a minute. Let's let that breathe. And let's talk about some of your favourite parts of the film, Rory.
Well, actually, I kind of want to talk about story structure a little bit, if that's
okay.
all right.
Yeah, go ahead.
One of the things that I think is really good about this film, outside of the fact that you didn't like it, forget that. The structure of the script is actually fucking brilliant. Everything it sets up in earlier acts pays off at the end. Even silly shit.
So the question Justin Long's going to ask him at the beginning.
Yeah, that pays off at the end.
And he won't let him.
Yep. The fact that they have the solar vox, they call it, it's a communicator, and he bumps into Justin Long and swaps those. That pays off later. He has a fight, like Tim Allen has a fight with a rock monster. That pays off later in the film somehow. The fact that he's, goes up to the ship and destroys Saris blows Harris halfway to hell, comes back later in the script. The idea that you have the main aliens, the Thermians, are actually squid people, as Jamie stated earlier, and they have basically the ability to shape shift using technology. They've got
it's like a cloaking device.
Yeah, he says they're appearance generators.
That's it.
So they have an appearance generator to make them look human, or as human as the Thermians look. And that comes back later, after they think they've destroyed Saris. He comes back as Tony Shalhoub. Shalhoub, sorry. Comes back as Tony... I should know that because I watched all of Monk. He comes back as Tony Shalhoub to kill the crew. And that's when they use the plot element of the Omega-13 device, which is the question Justin Long's asked at the beginning. Everything that they bring in pays off.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful cycle of work. And that's very hard to find in a lot of films, even now. Certainly now, actually, to be honest. You watch a lot of films and they'll just go, oh, there's a thing, and they'll just forget the thing. Everything just becomes a MacGuffin rather than an item to be used later on in the plot.
Yeah.
Galaxy Quest is perfect in that it utilizes everything it raises, including the mines. It uses the mines right at the beginning when they try and escape Saris. They get blown the shit out of by a load of mines.
Yeah.
And then they use the mines at the end once they've got
magnetic mines. They trail them. Yeah.
Yep, and that's how they defeat Saris. All of this stuff is really clever. I actually do want to give massive props to the script on that.
So the bits I do want to give props to if I didn't already, the costuming and prop work on Saris and his men. They actually looked very cool. Like they totally looked like they could be out of Star Trek or Doctor Who or even Star Wars, like something like that. Yeah. They didn't look.
Saris was really intricate as well.
Yeah.
Loads of bits just
spider legs on his head that were moving.
Yeah, and
the
shoulder pads. They seemed to breathe almost, didn't they?
Yeah, he had those little spines that came out when he got angry on his back. Played by Robin Sachs from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Ethan Rayne.
Rian.
Yes. It's so funny actually, because he looks better, and obviously there's 30-40 years worth of difference in technology, but he looks better than pretty much any villain in Star Trek the original series did.
Yeah, the closest they got to anything like that was the Gorn.
To be honest,
and the Gorn was infamously slow because it was a man in a rubber suit with a rubber head on.
I'm sure they couldn't have done, because I'm sure the Gorn is like copyright to Star Trek. But it would have been so funny to find a way to get a Gorn into it and have Tim Allen make a comment about, I'm used to shit like this, and now you're bringing me this. I've just thought...
Though, to be fair, I'll be honest, they kind of... I think they did a little bit of that in Bill and Ted 2.
Oh, okay.
I know they go to the cliff face. There's a special thanks to William Shatner.
Vasquez Rocks,
in it. William Shatner showed the filmmakers where to get to Vasquez Rocks to get to that infamous bit where he fights the Gorn.
Right.
So you get the same shots and everything. It's really clever.
One thing maybe, I'm not saying this explains it all, but actually I've just thought when you mentioned Tony Shalhoub, one of the things that might... Because this film has a really odd feel to me. Yeah. Like something's missing. And maybe it is the fact that this was shot as an R-rated movie.
Yeah.
And was forcibly cut to a PG-13. Do you actually know why it was cut to a PG-13? It's ridiculous. I looked it up.
Oh, I thought it was just for sale's sake.
It was, but do you know what inspired them to do that?
No.
Not long before this came out, they released the Rugrats movie.
Right.
And it did really well. Right. So the studio behind this went, shit, we better do a kid-friendly movie.
Interesting.
And edited this to be... I do think I'd like this a bit better if it was R-rated. If you lent into Tim Allen's character being just like a degenerate drunk, Shalhoub's a stoner.
Yeah, because it's never mentioned he's a stoner apart from there's one throwaway reference right near the end.
Yeah.
But his behaviour makes no sense.
Yeah,
until you realise he's meant to be a stoner.
Yeah.
But otherwise he's just like, this guy's like, he's not invested, but he doesn't seem to care. But he does care. He's just not really... What?
Honestly,
and then
he's
like, he's a stoner. That's why he doesn't.
Do you know where I thought it was going until you told me that?
Go on.
Because he turns up to the ship, doesn't he, after Sam Rockwell screamed his head off?
Yeah.
He turns up to the ship and he's just like, cool, and walks off.
Yeah.
Honestly, thought he was going to be a Thermian in disguise.
Right.
Or an alien of some sort.
Yeah, it's just because he...
Because he just accepts it all.
Yeah, because he's stoned.
Yeah.
And that's where that joke kind of still works, but it loses something.
Yeah.
Because the explanation of why he would just accept being teleported halfway through space is off his nut.
And
no wonder.
I hate the fact they've dubbed Sigourney Weaver when she says, well, fuck that.
Yeah,
that would be so funny if she just saw that and was like, well, fuck that.
Yeah, so it's the only piece left in the film visually that remains of its R-rated version. It's when Sigourney Weaver and Tim Allen have to go and end the detonation device. You go straight on through the chompers. They turn around a corner and there's just the pointless random squashy metal chompers.
Yeah, it literally feels like a Sonic level.
Yeah.
Like, why would Robotnik have these big stampers?
Yeah. Yeah.
in the middle of Metropolis.
It makes it's a waste of energy, if anything. But yeah, and she clearly visually says, well, fuck that. But they've dubbed it over with screw that.
Yeah.
And
Which apparently she was very unhappy about, I've heard.
yeah. Which is, yeah. It's very strange because I love... One thing that I do love about this movie is that it's child-friendly.
Yeah.
Because it means that all of those fun... easily accept, and this is the other thing as well. If we go back to me comparing it with something like Lower Decks, Lower Decks is more childish than this. Its humor is literally for like Gen Z children. It's not, well, not even Gen Z now, Gen Alpha. It's proper puerile, infantile, mindless humor. And the only thing that makes a gag is that they shout the final line. And that's every joke.
Right.
I really can't stand Lower Decks. Like, it's the way that the humor isn't working for you on this. Think that, times it by 1,000,000, and that's me with Lower Decks. Yeah. And that was me really trying to like it, and I couldn't. Yeah, the humor just didn't land. But the point is that it's this childish humor that Lower Decks has going through it that you think, okay, well, fine, I can accept this as a children's show, and it's animated. So it's an animated show with puerile, childish humour. It's for kids. But then there's lots of blood and they swear. And you're like, so who's the audience? Like, this is too puerile for adults, but it's too gory and sweary for children. So it has no audience. Somehow it's working. It's selling. People like it. I think it's only working, quote unquote, because the budget's so low, which you can tell because the animation quality is garbage. Honestly, there is almost no animation quality in that show. It's really bad. There's whole scenes where the background is static and there's just people standing but not moving. And you're like, this is a multi-million-dollar Paramount production. You know, this should have actual animation in it. This looks like a Flash video on YouTube. But yeah, so you've got that. Whereas this obviously started off with the adult humour, but actually is a proper showcase of the fact that the film, I know, again, not for yourself, Jamie, but in general, for a general audience, you don't need the swearing and you don't need the gore, and the story will pull it through if it's strong enough. Yeah. I really believe that we have too much swearing and too much... Because we don't really have proper edge anymore. So people think, oh, I'm going to be edgy, I'm going to put fuck in my movie. And you're like, well, that's not edgy. It's what you do with it, or what you're trying to say, or what you challenge society with. Just dropping an F-bomb isn't challenging anything. But it's this fake upper middle class edginess. Well, my mum and dad would be really disappointed if they heard me say fuck, so I'm going to put it in my script. So yeah, it's I don't know. I appreciate swearing. I appreciate it using it to punctuate stuff. But this film proves you don't need it to sell the story. You don't need it to sell comedy. And you don't need it to sell a meaning. Because they don't swear at the point where they have to showcase to the Thermians that they are fake. They're not, that they're just actors. They don't use it for any of the comedy. And the only part left is, as we say, dubbed over, which is the fuck that bit. It works. The script still holds together. You're not sitting there going, there's missing something. There's no... Works fine. So, yeah, maybe this just... Again, this is me... I've gone back onto old man shaking fist at cloud. But it's... Honestly, I can't... It baffles me. Because I'm watching a lot of old movies as well now. Like, really old movies. And I say really old, like 50s, 40s.
Yeah, like the Golden Age.
Yeah, like The Men with Marlon Brando and things like that. 12 Angry Men, another brilliant example. Not a single swear word said, and it challenges me every time I watch it. It challenges me and my perception of justice and law. So many good films with real deep, intelligent, and still powerful stories without a single swear word, without a single bit of blood, without a single bit of... Because the script tells it. Because the performances sell it. And Galaxy Quest, don't get me wrong, it's not a drama in the same level as something like The Men. I'm not comparing it on that. But it's kind of one of the last bastions of you can make a really slick, intelligent, and emotionally important comedy without having to basically focus on the lowest common denominator, and it will still work.
Yeah.
Not everything needs to be Dodgeball.
Yeah.
Not everything needs to be Scary Movie. Not everything needs to have Stifler's mum in it. But I haven't seen a comedy in 20 years, pretty much, that hasn't had some of those elements in it somewhere.
Right.
You know, like, it... Think of the whole 2000s. Anything after Galaxy Quest. Name me something that's like Galaxy Quest, in that it's, you know, not... something where the story's got a lot of pathos, it's funny, and it doesn't require gross-out humour, swearing, or gore.
Mean Girls.
Mean Girls, I'll give you.
I'm just trying to remember if there was any swearing in Mean Girls. No, it's all covered in it, like
Yeah.
fugly slut and stuff like that.
So you know what? I'll give you Mean Girls.
Um,
Because the ones I remember are things like The Hangover, and they're garbage.
Hangover's crap, yeah.
Yeah.
Really overrated, The Hangover
Yeah,
is.
I agree with you. And also, but again, it's full of gross-out comedy. It's
Yeah.
full of...
Problem is,
Going through the 2010s is no better either.
No, well, by the time you get to the 2010s, they've pretty much stopped making pure comedies. It's always comedy crossed with something. And don't get me wrong, that can be really good. Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah.
Comedy horror. Great. I love Shaun of the Dead.
I love Shaun of the Dead.
Great. But it's got swearing and
Yeah, yeah.
it's R-rated and
Yeah, it's
blood
true.
and things in it.
Hot Fuzz was good as well. I know you didn't like it, but again, I liked Hot Fuzz. But again, you are right, it has swearing and stuff in it. Yeah, there's not really much of it.
Everything else I can think
But
of
similarly,
is
there's
crossed
not-
with something, so it's like a rom-com
Yeah.
or something
Yeah,
like
so
that.
I like The Proposal, but that's, again, it's a rom-com, and I believe it has some swearing in it. No gore.
Deadpool, that's R-rated.
It's very R-rated. You know what? It works for that, because it's written around it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's... And again, like, since the mid-2010s to now, other than Deadpool and Deadpool 2... I can't think of any actual comedy, and even then, they're comedy superhero movies.
Yeah.
I can't think of any comedies.
There's a film called Accepted that I quite like. It's got Justin Long in it from this. I don't remember if it's got gross out in it or not. Or like what age rating it was. My memory is it's quite good,
Interesting.
but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I could be misremembering.
Yeah. I'm also missing... I'll be honest, this is just me. I'm going on a bit of a pedestal here, I apologise. But I also miss a lot of dramas, like that sort of really intimate drama of things like The Men, 12 Angry Men.
I think the only way to get those now is indie.
Yeah.
I think
I thought Split was close, even though that had the horror element as well, and it went a bit silly at the end.
yeah. Did you see the sequel, Glass?
Yes, I did. It wasn't good.
What a disappointing film.
I know, it had all the right elements to be an absolute amazing movie, but the problem with that film is that Unbreakable and Split were essentially slightly higher budget indies. They were low, like they were like underground, and they treated superheroism as like it could be real, and supervillainism as it could be real. Glass tried to go into that world and go, yeah, but let's just make it like a superhero movie. You're like, you've missed the whole point of your own franchise somehow, like by trying to make it a superhero movie.
Yeah.
Pointless.
Anyway,
Anyway, my final roundup on Galaxy Quest is that I think it's one of the last amazing comedies, script-wise. I
can't think of any sci-fi comedies. You don't get many of them anymore.
No, they kind of fell out of fashion after the boom of the Star Wars in the 70s and 80s. But yeah, Galaxy Quest is kind of the last big sci-fi comedy that's not a superhero movie. This is me shaking fist at cloud, so I apologise to anyone who... certainly if you disagree with me, I don't mean to upset or offend anyone's sensibilities, and there's a lot of people out there, because I know that there is a big fan base for Star Trek Lower Decks, but honestly, if you want to see that done right, like TV has done it better with...
Well, let's do a little call out for people. Anyone who can think of a really good pure comedy film
Yep.
of the last 20 years.
Ensemble comedy, I want to see.
Hmm?
An ensemble
Comedy. Give us a comment or email at info.impalafilms@gmail.com and let us know. Last 20 years,
Yeah.
a really good ensemble comedy film.
Yep. Yeah, I'm up for listening to that. We could maybe do an AMA or something with people's suggestions.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, just let us know, and we'll do a special recording episode and read out what people's suggestions are and see if we agree or disagree, or if we've seen them.
Sounds good to me. Anyway, that is it for this week's episode of Second Take Cinema. Thank you for taking the time to listen to us as we go on a galaxy quest. We will be back next time with another film. In the meantime, feel free to like, share, subscribe, rate, etc., etc. It only helps the show to grow. You can also check out our other movie review podcast, VGMP, the Video Game Movie Podcast, where we review video game movies. Most of them are famously terrible, and we have a good time having a laugh about them. You can also check out our audio drama series, Haunted the Audio Drama, available on all good podcasting apps. At the time this comes out, we'll probably be on our break between season 2 and 3, I imagine. So plenty of time to catch up before season 3 begins. And with that, it's time to say goodbye. Say goodbye, Rory.
Goodbye, Rory.
It wasn't funny the first time someone did that. It's not funny the bajillionth time.